The sun rose over the plains of Thermopylae, bathing the landscape in the warm glow of a new day. Among the assembled Greeks, a sense of foreboding hung heavy, a premonition of the trials that lay ahead. But amidst this tension stood King Leonidas of Sparta, his face a mask of calm determination. With a heart that knew no fear and eyes that reflected the steely resolve of his people, he prepared to defend the pass against the impending Persian onslaught. Leonidas was a man of few words, yet his actions spoke volumes of his character. In the hushed moments before battle, he addressed his men, his voice echoing the unwavering spirit of Sparta. "Return home," he commanded, "if any one of you does not wish to die in defense of Greece." His words were a stark reminder of the gravity of their situation. To stay meant commitment to the ultimate sacrifice, a willingness to give one's life for the defense of the homeland. Yet none turned back. They stood shoulder to shoulder, united in their purpose. But why were they there? What was the significance of this seemingly insignificant pass that had brought together this band of brave warriors? Let's take a closer look at the Battle of Thermopylae. The year is 480 BC, and the Persian king Xerxes has set his sights on conquering Greece. His vast army, a multi-ethnic horde numbering in the hundreds of thousands, marches through the Balkans, eager to impose the might of the Persian Empire on the Greeks. But the Greeks are prepared to resist. They know that open confrontation with such a massive force is futile, so they choose their battles carefully, focusing on strategic locations like the narrow pass at Thermopylae, also known as the Hot Gates. Here, a small force of around 7,000 Greek hoplites, including 300 Spartans led by King Leonidas, makes their stand. Despite being vastly outnumbered, these warriors dig in, forming an unbreakable wall of shields and spears. Their plan is simple yet effective. The hot and narrow passage becomes a death trap for the Persians. As the Persians advance in their thousands, they are met with an unyielding wall of Greek shields and spears. The narrow space allows the Greeks to concentrate their forces, turning what should be a numerical disadvantage into a tactical advantage. Day after day, the Persians attack, wave after wave, crashing against the steadfast Greek wall, only to be repelled with heavy losses. The Greeks, though fewer in number, stand firm, their discipline and unity making them a force to be reckoned with. But the Persians, with their vast numbers and resources, are not easily deterred. They continue to attack relentlessly. The fighting is fierce, with men falling on both sides. The air grows thick with the stench of sweat, blood, and death. Yet the Greeks hold their ground. Leonidas, with his Spartans at the forefront, fights with the fury of a cornered lion. He leads by example, his bravery inspiring the rest of the Greeks to match his valor. However, the Spartans and their allies are aware that this stand cannot last forever. They are outnumbered, and the longer they hold out, the more casualties they sustain. Knowing that their fate hangs in the balance, they fight with renewed vigor, each thrust of a spear, each swing of a sword, echoing the Spartan cry of "Mollen lave, come and get them." The Persians, despite their initial confidence, are starting to feel the weight of the Greek resistance. They have underestimated their opponents, failing to comprehend the strength and unity that binds the Greeks together. Xerxes, the Persian king, watching from a distance, realizes that his army is being humiliated by this small band of warriors. He demands that the Greeks surrender, offering them riches and power if they lay down their arms. But Leonidas rejects these offers, his response a resounding never. He knows that surrender would mean not only the loss of his men's lives, but the compromise of his honor and the future of Greece. For Sparta and the other Greek city-states, surrender is not an option. They stand for freedom, for independence, and for the defense of Hellas, their collective homeland. So the battle rages on. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, the fighting intensifies. The Greeks, though tired and wounded, refuse to yield. They know that their stand is not just for themselves, but for the future of Greece. The Persians, exhausted by days of futile attacks, begin to lose hope of a swift victory. They have attacked from all sides, but the Greeks, with their disciplined formations and unbreakable morale, hold firm. But then, a twist of fate changes everything. News reaches the Persians of a mountain pass leading to the rear of the Greek position. Seizing on this intelligence, the Persians change their tactics. Instead of frontal assaults, they send riders to outflank the Greeks, hoping to cut off their supply lines and force them to abandon their position. This new threat, if true, could indeed spell disaster for the Greeks. If they were truly surrounded, their situation would become untenable. The prospect of capture or death loomed large. Faced with this dire news, Leonidas is faced with a difficult decision. Staying put means almost certain death. Retreat would mean abandoning their post and giving up the hard-won advantage they had gained. He gathers his men, his face grim, his eyes scanning the horizon. The Spartan king knows the time is of the essence. A decision must be made quickly. After a brief council with his officers, he decides to stay and fight. Retreat is out of the question. He will not abandon his post, nor compromise the defense of Greece. And so, the battle continues. The Greeks, though aware of the danger, stand firm. They fight with renewed ferocity, knowing that their fate hangs in the balance. Now let's shift our focus from the battlefield to the everyday life of the citizens of Sparta. It was not just the warriors who made Sparta unique. Its citizens, both men and women, were molded by a system that valued discipline, endurance, and obedience above all else. For the male citizens of Sparta, life was a continuous cycle of military training and duty. From the time they were 7 years old, they were removed from their families and sent to live together in communal barracks. There they underwent rigorous physical and mental training, learning to fight, to endure hardship, and to obey orders without question. Women in Sparta enjoyed more freedom than their Athenian counterparts. They were not confined to the domestic sphere and were expected to participate in athletic competitions, taking part in events such as javelin throwing, discus, and wrestling. They were also expected to manage the household affairs in the event of their husband's death. Spartan women were renowned for their intelligence and wit. While Athenian women were primarily seen as vessels for bearing children, Spartan women were educated and were expected to contribute to public life. In contrast to the Spartan way of life, Athens offered a different path. While Sparta was a military state, Athens was a hub of intellectual and cultural activity. The Athenian Empire, at its peak, stretched across the Aegean Sea and was a center of trade and commerce. This prosperity funded a flourishing of art, literature, and philosophy. The Acropolis, with its iconic Parthenon, was a testament to the wealth and cultural achievements of the city. The assembly, composed of male citizens, was the center of political life in Athens. This democratic institution allowed citizens to participate directly in lawmaking and policy decisions. As evening descends and the heat of the day begins to fade, the stories of Thermopylae come alive in the flickering lamplight of a local tavern. Soldiers and civilians alike gather, sharing tales of bravery and sacrifice. The walls are adorned with faded paintings depicting the last stand of the Spartans. The air is filled with the murmur of conversation and the clink of drinking cups. Many of those gathered here have heard the stories of Thermopylae, the heroic stand of 300 Spartans against the vast Persian army. The tale of Leonidas, king of Sparta, and his band of warriors has become a beacon of courage and resistance. These stories are not just tales of valor, they are lessons in strategy and determination. The bravery displayed at Thermopylae has become a source of pride for the Greeks, a symbol of their ability to stand up to overwhelming odds and defend their homeland. Whether in taverns, homes, or town squares, the memory of Thermopylae is kept alive. The echo of their courage reverberates through the ages, inspiring generations to come. Today, visitors from around the world make their way to the site of Thermopylae, standing in awe at the spot where Leonidas and his men made their last stand. The simplicity of the memorial adds to its impact, a stark reminder of the magnitude of the sacrifice made there. The nearby museum showcases artifacts from the period, helping visitors connect with the human element of this historic event. The legacy of Thermopylae lives on. The story serves as a powerful reminder of the cost of freedom and the importance of courage and determination in the face of adversity. It is a testament to the enduring spirit of the human will and the power of one man's stand to inspire generations. The quiet weight of history presses down here at Thermopylae, making the present moment a solemn one. The sun beat down on the dusty streets of ancient Sparta, glinting off polished bronze breastplates and the dark visors of helmets. But the heat didn't seem to bother the young Spartan boy named Lysander. He was too busy dodging his comrades during a spirited game of handball. This wasn't just a game for these future warriors, it was practice, a lesson in tactics and teamwork. Their laughter echoing in the courtyard of their barracks, their shouts blending with the rhythmic clang of hammer on iron from the nearby smithy. Life for a Spartan boy wasn't all about fighting, but it certainly was about being prepared to do so at a moment's notice. Now stop, rewind, back to the early 5th century BC. The Persian Empire stretches across continents, from the bustling markets of Lydia to the sun-baked shores of Egypt. The vast empire is held together by the might of its army and the unwavering belief in the superiority of its ruler, the great King Xerxes. But beyond the reach of Persian rule, in the rugged Peloponnese, lies the independent city-state of Sparta. Sparta, the home of fierce warriors, a society whose every facet, from its political system to its education, was geared towards military excellence. And leading this formidable city-state is Leonidas, the Spartan king. He is not your typical warrior king. Sure, he's got the physique of a god and the courage of a lion, but what truly sets him apart is his unshakable resolve, a trait forged in the fires of countless battles and the chilling whispers of the Oracle of Delphi. Back then, when the winds of war began to stir across Greece, Leonidas felt the weight of his responsibility acutely. He knew that Sparta's survival, nay, the fate of all Greece, rested on his shoulders. His advisors urged caution. Even his own father, King Anaxandridas, had fallen gravely ill upon hearing of Xerxes' plans for invasion. But Leonidas was made of sterner stuff. When the oracle proclaimed that either Sparta or Athens would fall, he saw his duty clearly. Sparta wouldn't survive if Athens fell, so then Sparta must strike first. His decision made, Leonidas rallied his people. But gathering an army wasn't as easy as stamping his feet and watching soldiers appear. Sparta's strength lay in its citizen soldiers, men who, between bouts of farming and trading, trained relentlessly to be ready for war. Leonidas needed these men, but he also needed to consider the potential consequences of their absence. If the crops rotted in the fields or trade deals fell through due to Sparta's military mobilization, his bold plan would crumble without a single battle. It was a tightrope walk, but Leonidas was up to the task. He convinced the ephors, Sparta's ruling body, to take a risk, to trust in his vision, and slowly the gears of Sparta's war machine began to turn. As the Spartan assembly gathered, Leonidas addressed them. Men of Sparta, our enemies are coming. Our freedom and our homes are at stake. Are you with me? The response, a thunderous roar that shook the foundations of the assembly building, echoed his own sentiments. The Spartans weren't just warriors. They were thinkers, strategists who understood the value of planning as much as they understood the use of their shield and sword. Leonidas divided his forces, creating a council of war to manage the city's affairs while he was gone. He appointed trusted friends and relatives to key positions, ensuring that Sparta's interests would be looked after. These men would serve as both administrators and military representatives, making decisions swiftly and efficiently in the event of war. It was a masterstroke of political organization. Next, he turned his attention to supplies, food, weapons, and equipment. Spartans believed in going into battle prepared, but logistical issues could undermine even the bravest soldier. Leonidas organized supply depots near the front lines, points where troops could quickly restock on provisions. He also established efficient communication routes, a network that would allow for the rapid exchange of information between the various military units. This web of logistics wasn't just about winning battles, it was about maintaining order, about projecting Spartan power even in wartime. But perhaps the most crucial aspect of Leonidas's preparations was training. Sparta's military prowess wasn't just about numbers or brute force. It was about discipline, strategy, and above all, endurance. While his officers drilled their men, fine-tuning their battle formations and testing their mettle, Leonidas spent time with the elite 300 Spartan warriors known as the Spartiates. These men were the cream of Sparta's crop, bred for war from birth. Leonidas trained with them, not to hone his fighting skills, but to remind himself of the principles that had made Spartan warriors a force to be reckoned with. During these training sessions, he'd often fall silent, lost in thought. What was he thinking about? Perhaps he was contemplating the words of the oracle, or maybe he was strategizing about how best to utilize his forces. But his warriors knew better than to interrupt their king's concentration, so they trained in silence, letting their actions speak louder than words. Finally, the time came. Leonidas, clad in his iconic red cloak, stood before his assembled army. Around him were men from allied city-states, Thebans, Corinthians, and more. But the core of Leonidas's force was the Spartans, 300 strong, a testament to Sparta's unwavering commitment to its ideals. Each man was a master of his craft, a living weapon honed by years of rigorous training. Men of Sparta, Leonidas's voice rang out, carrying over the murmur of the assembled troops. We stand here today not just as soldiers, but as the bulwark of Greece. Our duty is to hold the line, to give our country time to prepare. He paused, letting his words sink in. Do you accept this duty? A roar erupted from the ranks, a sound that would echo through the ages, a testament to the courage and conviction of these 300 warriors. Leonidas nodded, a grim satisfaction settling on his face. He knew what lay ahead was dangerous, possibly even a one-way ticket to death, but he also knew that the fate of Greece rested on his shoulders, and he was ready to meet that challenge head-on. The Spartan army set out from their encampment, their steps firm, their eyes focused ahead. As they approached the narrow pass of Thermopylae, a sense of foreboding settled over them. The pass, with its towering cliffs and winding turns, was beautiful, yes, but it was also a potential death trap. Leonidas, ever the strategist, took a moment to study the terrain. He could feel the weight of Xerxes' massive army on his back, like a storm gathering on the horizon. The Persian soldiers, with their exotic armor and unfamiliar faces, streamed through the pass, their numbers seemingly endless. But the Spartans didn't flinch. They had chosen this place to make their stand, and no force on earth could shake their resolve. For 3 days, the fighting raged, a brutal dance of spear thrusts, shield bashes, and shouts of defiance. Leonidas and his men stood firm, their disciplined ranks holding against the tide of Persian soldiers. Each Spartan was a wall unto himself, his endurance tested and proven in countless battles. They fought not just for Sparta, but for every Greek city-state, for the very soul of Hellas. But the Spartans were outnumbered, outgunned. And as the 4th day dawned, a traitor revealed a secret mountain path to the Persians. Leonidas, ever vigilant, was prepared. He sent most of the Greek forces away, giving them a chance to regroup and fight another day. He would stay with his Spartans and a handful of allies, facing their doom with stoic courage. The end came quickly. The Spartans, along with their allies, were wiped out, their bodies lying on the ground, a testament to their bravery and sacrifice. But their sacrifice didn't go in vain. News of Thermopylae rallied the Greeks. They regrouped, reassembled, and fought. And ultimately they prevailed. Leonidas' name became synonymous with courage and sacrifice, his story immortalized in song, poetry, and art. The Spartans, with their focus on military excellence and their unwavering commitment to their ideals, had created a legend. That legend was Leonidas. Now, in the grand tapestry of history, Leonidas' stand at Thermopylae may seem like a single thread, a brief moment of intense courage amidst centuries of conflict. Yet this moment was a defining one. It encapsulated the essence of Spartan society, their discipline, their tenacity, their dedication to duty. It was also a microcosm of human nature under extreme pressure, a study in courage, sacrifice, and unwavering resolve. Leonidas, the Spartan king, embodies this ideal. He wasn't the strongest, the smartest, or the luckiest, but he was the most resolute. He chose his duty and stuck to it, come hell or high water. And in doing so, he gave us a timeless example of leadership and unwavering commitment. As we look back at the life of Leonidas, it's not just his military victories or strategic brilliance that we admire, but his steadfastness, his willingness to face any challenge head-on. He reminds us that sometimes the greatest victories are won not in battle, but in the choices we make every day to be better, stronger, more resolute. Like the Spartans who stood with him at Thermopylae, we too can find strength in unity, courage in the face of adversity, and leadership in the pursuit of a greater good. The story of Leonidas and the Spartans isn't just a relic of the past. It's a guide for the future. It's a testament to the power of human resilience, the strength of community, and the importance of standing up for what you believe in. If you want to dive deeper into the world of ancient Sparta and learn more about Leonidas and the 300 Spartans, check out this playlist. It's a collection of stories that will take you back to a time of valor, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment. Each video is a new adventure, a journey into the heart of a world that shaped Western civilization. Don't miss out on this epic journey. Watch this playlist and let the adventures begin. We've all heard the tales of Sparta, a city-state whose warriors were renowned for their discipline and strength. They were said to have developed an unmatched fighting force that played pivotal roles in ancient Greece, most notably at the Battle of Thermopylae, where King Leonidas and his 300 elite soldiers held off a much larger Persian army. Having followed Leonidas to the narrow pass of Thermopylae, let us now turn away from battles and into something quieter, more hidden, yet no less central to Spartan society, the Krypteia. The word itself carries a sense of secrecy. The Krypteia was a Spartan institution that has puzzled historians for centuries, because while it was mentioned in ancient sources, its precise nature remains unclear. Was it a military training program, a rite of passage, or a tool of control? Likely it was all three at once. Imagine yourself as a young Spartan, perhaps newly graduated from the agoge. You are strong, disciplined, and trained to obey. Now you are selected for the Krypteia, a path not open to all, but reserved for a chosen few. You are sent into the countryside, alone or in small groups, carrying only a dagger with instructions to survive as best you can. By day, you hide. By night, you emerge. Your mission is twofold, yet its true nature is shrouded in the mists of time. Ancient sources offer fragmented glimpses, leaving more questions than answers. Plutarch, writing centuries after the fact, portrays it as a test of endurance. For 7 months, you are to vanish into the hills, subsisting on what you can find, becoming one with the wilderness. If you manage to return home, you do so not as a boy, but as a man reborn, ready for the duties of citizenship. It sounds like a trial by nature, a challenge thrown to the youth of Sparta. Yet there is another layer, one that reveals the darker side of this Spartan custom. For it was not just the wilds you had to endure, but also the watchful eyes of the Helots, the subjugated native population who outnumbered the Spartans by 7-1. They lived in fear of your nightly visits, for you were not just an observer, but an enforcer. The Krypteia served as a constant reminder of their subjugated status. You see, Sparta was built on the backs of the Helots who farmed the land and paid the taxes that kept the military machine oiled. But their freedom was dearly bought and even more dearly guarded. While the Spartans enjoyed the fruits of their labor, they also ensured that the Helots knew their place through institutions like the Krypteia. And so you moved among the crops and livestock, a silent, watchful presence, separating the Helots from any thoughts of rebellion. Your very existence was a threat, a sharp edge hanging over their heads. And when you struck, it was swift and sure. A single wrong move, a whisper of discontent, and you were to deliver swift punishment, ensuring the Helots knew the cost of disloyalty. Your dagger was not just a tool for survival, but a symbol of power, reminding them that their lives were not their own. And in the dead of night, as the fields echoed with the crickets, the Helots huddled in their homes, wondering if tonight would bring the knock of the Krypteia. Was it a warning or a death knell? You were the answer, a faceless, emotionless agent of the Spartan state, ensuring order through terror. And so you patrolled the darkness, a silent specter haunting the countryside. And the Helots lived in perpetual fear of your arrival, a fear that kept them subdued and productive, fueling the Spartan war machine while they toiled in the shadows. But there's another facet to consider. For the Krypteia was not just a means of control, it was also a crucible of character building. In the harsh embrace of the wilderness, stripped of all comforts and support, you were honed into a different kind of warrior, one who relied on more than just skill and strength. Your senses sharpened, your instincts heightened, for every rustle of leaves could mean danger. Every shadow might conceal an ambush. Your mind became as sharp as your blade, always planning, always anticipating. And this training was not confined to the wilds. The Helots were a constant concern back in the city. Even here, you were not merely an observer, but a participant in a deadly game of cat and mouse. For unrest among the Helots could disrupt the very foundation of Spartan society, and you were the shield against that disruption. Each night brought new challenges, new ways to test your mettle. Did you allow the whispers to grow? Did you confront brewing discontent? Or did you let it simmer, watching for the right moment to snuff it out? It was a delicate balance, a tightrope walk between vigilance and restraint. And in this environment, you learned the true meaning of Spartan values: resourcefulness, tenacity, and above all, obedience. You were not just surviving, you were thriving in the face of adversity. Your actions, whether in the wild or the city, were not your own. You were an extension of the state, a living embodiment of its will. Your courage, determination, and obedience were not for personal glory, but for the preservation of Sparta. And so you endured, you adapted, you conquered. You returned from the Krypteia not just as a youth tempered by experience, but as a cornerstone of Spartan society, ready to take your place among the ranks of the elite warriors. However, the ambiguity deepens when we consider Xenophon's account. He writes of a secret oath taken by the Krypteia, a bond of silence and unity that tied them together and to Sparta. This oath meant to ensure unwavering loyalty and obedience, yet it also cloaks the practice in secrecy, making it difficult for outsiders, and indeed some Spartans, to fully comprehend its nature and purpose. It becomes a closed world where understanding is limited, suspicions grow, and the full weight of Spartan society presses down on those who would question it. Was it truly a test of endurance and obedience, as Plutarch suggests? Or did it also serve as a tool of social control, as Xenophon seems to imply? Perhaps the answer lies somewhere in between these accounts, reflecting the complex reality of Spartan society. The Krypteia emerges as a microcosm of Spartan culture, where discipline, obedience, and the subjugation of others were paramount. It was a world where the harsh realities of survival were balanced against the abstract ideals of duty and honor. It was a world where the line between strength and brutality was razor thin, where the pursuit of excellence was intertwined with the suppression of dissent. It was a world that prized endurance, not just on the battlefield, but in the quiet struggle to maintain control and order. It was a world that demanded absolute obedience, not just to a king or a law, but to an intangible concept of what Sparta should be. And in this world, the Krypteia stood as a bulwark, a testament to the Spartan ideal, a silent, unseen force that shaped the lives of those it touched. The true extent of its influence, like the secrets of the oath sworn by its participants, remains shrouded in the mists of time. Yet its legacy echoes in the annals of history, a reminder of the lengths to which Sparta would go to preserve its way of life. As we close this journey into the world of the crypt, let's take a moment to appreciate the complexity of Spartan society. Their warrior ethos often overshadows the fact that they too had internal struggles, power dynamics, and methods of social control. The Krypteia serves as a lens through which we can examine these aspects, reminding us that even the most renowned civilizations had their own internal conflicts and challenges. The Krypteia was not just a rite of passage or a tool of social control. It was a microcosm of Spartan society, a reflection of its strengths, fears, and contradictions. It was in these contradictions that the true nature of Sparta lay. A society that valued freedom and equality, yet subjugated those it deemed inferior. A society that prized strength and discipline, yet used them to maintain control and order. A society that claimed to be a beacon of democracy, yet was built on the backs of the subjugated helots. The Krypteia, therefore, was not just a part of Spartan life. It was a manifestation of the essence of Sparta, a world where the harsh realities of survival were balanced against the abstract ideals of duty and honor, where the line between strength and brutality was razor thin, and where the pursuit of excellence was intertwined with the suppression of dissent. It was a world that existed not just in the annals of history, but in the hearts and minds of those who lived it, a world that continues to fascinate and intrigue us today. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of the Krypteia. If you enjoyed this journey into the heart of Spartan society, I invite you to subscribe for more captivating historical tales. Together, let's keep history alive. Do you want to know what it's like to be a soldier? Not just any soldier, but a Spartan soldier. Here's your chance. The author of the best-selling book and podcast, The History of Sparta, brings you a unique opportunity to step back in time and experience life in ancient Sparta. This isn't just another lecture or retelling of famous battles. It's a chance to really immerse yourself in Spartan culture. You'll learn what it's like to wake up before sunrise, to complete grueling military exercises. You'll feel the tension as you learn to use a shield and a sword. And you'll even get to understand the importance of living a virtuous life as a Spartan man. But don't worry, this isn't all about war. You'll also learn about the unique role women played in Spartan society, the values that guided their society, and the traditions that made them who they were. Are you ready to answer the call to adventure and see what it takes to be a Spartan warrior? Don't wait. Sign up today and start your journey. Are you ready to go back in time and experience life in ancient Sparta? Then sign up for my class, The History of Sparta. I'll be your guide as you step back in time and learn what it was really like to live in this legendary society. But don't worry, This isn't just another dry history lesson. I'll bring Sparta to life with vivid descriptions and engaging stories that will make you feel like you're right there in the action. You'll learn about the fierce warriors who defended their homeland, the cunning strategies of their military leaders, and the unique customs and traditions of their society. And along the way, you'll discover what made Sparta such a powerful and enduring civilization. So if you've always wanted to learn more about ancient Sparta, then sign up for my class today. You won't regret it. And now, our journey through Sparta comes to a close. We started with the upbringing of Spartan youth, where children were shaped into tools of the state through hunger, discipline, and unyielding training. We stood with Leonidas at the pass at Thermopylae, where calm courage faced impossible odds. We entered the shadows of the Krypteia, the secret ritual that blurred the line between survival training and control. And finally, we looked outward to Athens, where democracy, art, and philosophy showed how many ways a society could be. Through it all, the story of Sparta reminds us how deeply a society can shape its people, how discipline and duty can forge unity, but also how much is left behind when the softer parts of life are set aside. Now, as you rest, think of how far removed those lives are. You are not lying on a reed bed in a smoky barracks, nor do you wake before dawn to drills and hunger. You are safe, comfortable, in the present. The hardships of Sparta are memories, carried away like the echoes of shields striking in the distance. Take a slow, gentle breath. Imagine the hills of Greece under a quiet sky, the olive groves swaying softly in the breeze, the voices of history fading into silence. Let that stillness settle around you, anchoring you in calm. The Spartans are gone. Their discipline is now only a story. What is left for you is rest, peace, and the quiet rhythm of sleep.